بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. I greet our listening audience with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And what was just recited is the first chapter of the Qur'an called Al-Fatiha, the opening. Today we're going to begin speaking from chapter 7, verse 32 of the Quran. And so let me begin with the reading of the verse, first in Arabic. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Qul, say. This is an instruction. Say, and it's a command to the individual, to the individual to say, who man harrama zinat Allahi, who harrama has made unlawful zinata, this is the beautiful, the beauty, the beautiful things, the pleasantries, beauty and pleasantries of Allah, allati, which akhraja li ibadihi, which he brings out, extracts from the material world for his servant. Wa at-tayyibati, and the purifications. Now this wa at-tayyibati is in the accusative, and it goes back to zinata. It's following zinata. It's a follower of zinata. So we're saying the pleasantries and the purifications. Who have made unlawful the beautiful things and the pure and the good things, min ar-rizqi, from the provisions that he brings out, that he extracts from the material world for his servants. Qul, say, here they lilladina are for those amanu who have accepted faith. Fi al-hayati, in the life at dunya, in the material life, this life. See, we have many who makes negative statements about the dunya. No, this dunya is not against the believer from having and being active and enjoying it. This dunya is for the believers, khalisatan, specifically, especially. Yawma al-Qiyamati, the day of resurrection. Kazalika, thus, nufasilu ayati, we make plain, distinct, the signs, liqaumin ya'maluna, for a people who know. Now, that's more of a straight, literal translation of the verse. Now let's take a look at, today we're going to look at Jalalain, some of the comments that he has made to the verse. So for kul, he says, say, inkaran alayhi. So this first portion, I have to always say, because we may have someone new listening in, the first portion is specifically for the students, for the Mali Quranic Arabic students. And if you are not a student in Mali and you would like to join, just send, go to MuslimAmericanLogic.org, and there is a place to sign up for the classes. We will be offering a class, a new class will be opening up after Ramadan. After Ramadan, we'll be opening up a new class. We will put the announcements out very soon of the time. So the students have advanced to this level that we're presenting now. Many of the students are at this level now, and some of them will be at this level soon. So we're addressing, I'm addressing all of the listeners in one way or another. So bear with us if you can't follow the Arabic right now. But allow yourself, if you're watching on Facebook or on the webinar, keep your eyes and ears in the environment of language so that Arabic language soon will not be strange to you, seeing it or hearing it. Kul, say, inkaran, meaning contesting or negating, contesting or negating. Upon them, or negating upon them is literal, negating them. Who man harrama zinat Allah التي أخرج لعباده. He said, min al-libasi. Min al-libasi, meaning that those who are making haram from the dress. Here he's speaking specifically of the dress, the beautiful dress. You know, there are some who makes the beautiful dress haram, especially the beautiful dress of the women. They want to make it haram, that all women have to wear black. You should be covered in black and not beautify yourself with a beautiful dress. So, min al-libas. وَطَيِّبَاتِ al-mustalazati, meaning the delicious things, the pleasant, pure, delicious things. Min al-rizqi, from the provisions, good food. قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Meaning that they are for those who believe in this life. In this material life, bil istihqaqi, by right, by worthiness, they have a right to it. If it's Allah who created the earth, who has created the material world, who has created the dunya, and the dunya has all of these resources in it. The earth has all the natural resources that are in the earth, then why should it be for the criminal type minded people only? Why should disbelievers have access to all of these resources, and the believers, those who worship Allah and believe in Allah and obey Allah, it should be restricted to them? So it's the talk by right, because we worship Allah. The material world belongs to us by right. And as we have been connecting with other presentations, and he has made us a Khalifa. وَإِن شَارَكَهُمْ فِيهَا غَيْرُهُمْ. Even if others other than those who are righteous shares with them in it. Even though Allah shares with them, He shares with them in it. Gayrahu, we can say Gayrahu. He shares with them in it other than them, other than the righteous. We will see the comments we will make on this. Khalisatan, he said, meaning khasatan. Khasatan bihi, meaning specifically for them. Specifically for those who believe. The Raf'i wa Nasbi. Saying that he's saying here grammatically, I'm not going to elaborate. Grammatically, this could be khalisatun, or khalisatan. If it's khalisatun, it would be in reference to hiya. And khalisatan, he's saying it will be hal. It will be the condition. That's the condition in which he has created this material world, especially for the believers. Yawm al-Qiyamati, the day of resurrection. كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ. Likewise, he has نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ. Yes. He has Nabi Nubayyinuha. He has clarified it, defining Nufasilu. He has made it clear, Nufasilu, the signs. Mathalu Zalika at-Tafsili, the example of that clarity, لِيَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ, for people who know. Meaning يَتَدَبَّرُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ الْمُنْتَفِعُونَ بِهَا. Meaning that those who contemplate, for surely they benefit in it. They benefit from it. For people who know, it's clear. He's making it clear. His signs clear that those who think, they contemplate, they ponder on Allah's creation and benefit from it. Those who are most worthy of it, that istihqaq are those who believe. Okay, here is the reflection that I have written along with other sources. Say in contestation, who has prevented and prohibited the attractive decorations in the creation of Allah, which he extracts and manifests for his servants amongst all creatures, and they deny the delicious pleasantries that are permissible, which Allah has brought out from the earth. It is for those who have submitted and remained firm in truth in his temporal life specifically, though he has shared it with others. And it will be exclusively for the servants of Allah the day that they are raised from the veiled graves of darkness and ignorance. This is Yawm al-Qiyamah, And when we're speaking of the Qur'an, let me say this. When we're speaking of the Qur'an, or speaking from the Qur'an, or reading the Qur'an, we read the Qur'an thinking on this side of the life, not the other side. We don't try to take our mind to the other side. We don't know the other side of the life. We only know this side. So the Qur'an is guidance for us on this side. And the verses are written. They are written to address us on this side. Sometimes they may be ayat. They may be in signs that's addressing us on this side. And they're transcending signs. Imminent and transistence is in the signs of Allah. So, Yawm al-Qiyamah, those who will be raised from the veiled graves of darkness and ignorance in this life. Thereby, we will make beneficiaries these sciences with its evidences and warnings complete with details. So this is the ayat. This is I'm speaking from ayat. We will make beneficiaries, these sciences with its evidence and warnings complete with details. The communities of men and women who ponder, reflect, and organize their thinking. So our outline today will be who locks out the believers, who locks the believers out of the material world, the dunya. Who is doing that? Who is it that has the poorest people in the world speaking negative about the dunya? Don't seek the dunya. The call to Islam is the call for development. The material world is exclusive for the servants of Allah. Material and intellectual property, a new world order in religion. This is our outline for today's presentation. So, it is being asked, who is God instructing Muhammad the Prophet to contest in the first part of this verse? Who is he speaking to? Who is Allah addressing in this verse and saying to Muhammad the Prophet to question? To question them. He is contesting the criminal-minded in religion first. Understand this. It's the criminal-minded in religion first. Those who say, those who are preaching that God has forbidden, made unlawful, that your food, drink, clothing, etc. They have made them unlawful. Who is it that's preaching this? They are forbidding God's worship of the material world. They are telling them, don't you worry about material things. These crooks, and that's what they are, they're crooks, are amongst the Muslim world too. They're in the Christian world, and they are in the Muslim world. They sell us on having prayer rugs. That's fine. Incense, oils, call the adhan on the minute, looking at your watch. What time is the adhan? Right on the minute. Make 5 prayers. Do zikr. Make your sunnahs. Read the sunnahs. Read the sunnah books. volumes and volumes of Sunnah books, but don't read the Quran. You can memorize the whole Quran, but don't try and comprehend its meaning. I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and the Imam, he's boasting about how he started at 7 years old, studying, and had made great progress. Studying, I don't want to say too much, but went to the great University of Al-Azhar and graduated. But he wasn't one of us. But he's amongst us. He wasn't African American, but he's amongst the African Americans. And he say that for 6 years, every morning he comes and teach the students. And in 6 years, they have learned how to recite the letters. Open the Quran, they can recite the letters. No meaning, no conjugations, no 10 forms, no grammar. 6 years. And telling him, brother, it takes time. It takes time. Who is this crook? A crook in religion. So you can memorize the whole Quran, but don't try and comprehend its meaning. This is how this religion is presented to most Muslims. What does this do to the mind of the people who have been locked out of material accomplishments, intellectual accomplishments, intellectual developments in this country since their inception of being brought to these lands? The call to Al-Islam is the call for developments. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had it right. He was right. The call to develop your own self. For those who constantly want to attack the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's more Muslim than they will ever be, in the fact that he was calling the African American to Al-Islam and calling them to develop your own self. What good is it? What good is it to be a Muslim and remain a slave to another people? You go from one slave master to another. Then what good is this religion for us if it's not going to bring about freedom? Free to develop resources that Allah has created for His believers. Do something for your own self was the first teaching. That is the same call that God made when He created Adam. Adam was the human type that is put in the earth to develop it. The earth is the first garden, and it was made whole and beautiful. It is called garden for its abundance of trees, rivers, having fish that is all permissible to eat. All fish is permissible to eat. We have those who want to make haram certain fish, when Allah says all the fish is permissible to eat. Fertile lands for crop, orchards, and vines. It has forests to allow animals to live and roam, that also provide man with food, drink, clothing, and to ride. Man is to develop this earth and provide for himself from it a livelihood that will accommodate all human needs, both material and spiritual. So I have to address my people also in Africa, whom they have honored me to address them, to push them to make progress. So the African people, and I'm speaking specifically to the Ghanaians who are listening. Ghana is predominantly a poor country. Many of the African countries are poor, and much of their revenue as a country comes from charities. But yet, they are living on fertile land with natural resources that if they were to start doing for themselves in developing the land that they're living on, the land that they're walking on, they will become the most charitable people in the world. So who has locked them out? Who has locked them out of the idea of developing the natural resources that's in their own lands? That the whole world, that will be beneficial for the whole world. But they are the poster child for poverty and charity throughout the world. They have been made. They're not the only poor people of the world, but they have made the poster child of poverty. You want to raise some money? Put an African on your poster. Yes. But we want to help them. That's why I'm addressing them. Because we want to help and be a help. And two areas that we began to help is in education and water. Two things to help, education and water. That's where we're going to begin our help with them. There's no way that any people on this earth should be denied water. And no people on this earth should be denied education. Not in a time like this. Not in this advanced time of technology that any person on this earth should be denied education, and no one should be denied water. They shouldn't have to walk 2 miles to get water. They have to learn to do for themselves. God gave man an intelligence that he gave no other creature to benefit from his creation. I'm addressing firstly, the African American, secondly, the African. They have given me that right. Yet someone comes in the name of God and denies all of this from his devout servant. They tell us that the want for money, homes, and friendship in all walks of life is un-Islamic. Now let's look at the second part of God's statement. It will be exclusive for the servants of Allah the day, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day that they are raised from the veiled graves of darkness and ignorance. And that's how we're finding the people. Don't you know, if you a human being, and God has given you the intelligence to go and develop the resources of this earth that He's put us on, and we, our whole people, just predominantly undeveloped, then that in itself is a condition of darkness and ignorance, because you don't know how you don't have the knowledge to go into the material world and get the resources out to benefit yourself, to have a decent livelihood. So we have to be resurrected from this condition. That's the first resurrection. This verse is telling us, firstly, not to worry ourselves and grieve over the misery we see in the world. It is only temporary. God is allowing it. Don't worry. We shouldn't worry ourselves over those things. This world is exclusive for His servants, but He shares it with the wrongdoers, the crooks, the criminals. God has given the wrongdoers the freedom to get whatever they can get out of this material world. This is God's compassion for His creatures and His charity. But don't worry about that. These criminals can't get the spiritual blessings that God has for His special servants, neither here or the hereafter. And let me say, what I'm saying is that there's something special spiritually for his servants, and it's the spiritual world that moves the material world. So we're not to be just spiritual. That spiritual has this relationship with the material. They will never rise from the grave of their ignorance to experience the heaven that God put Adam in before he fell. The wrongdoers. They can have their material wealth, but not the spiritual wealth that Abraham experienced as a garden. Not the spiritual wealth that Jesus experienced as a garden. Not the spiritual wealth that Muhammad of Arabia experienced as a garden in paradise on this side of the life. Not only do we have, especially in modern times, in this new world order initiated by the revelation of the Qur'an, what we're seeing now in modern times in terms of man's advancement in the material world was initiated by the revelation of the Qur'an. Not only do we have a perception of material wealth, but also human wealth or intellectual wealth as well. Spiritual wealth. We're talking spiritual wealth. When we're talking intellectual wealth, when we're talking human wealth, we're talking more from a spiritual perspective than the material perspective. This idea has always been in religion, both the idea of material property and intellectual property. God wanted us to know from the very beginning of the revelation of the Qur'an that we are to have both in Him, saying to strive with our material wealth and with our persons, ourselves. Throughout the Qur'an, both. And the self that he is referencing is the intellectual self, what allows you to strive with your person and your properties. This person, this self, is the intellectual self. We have to have material resources and we have to have intellectual resources. It takes both to develop the community life that we are to have and live in, intellectual and the material. We have to have our own creations from the earth as well as from the mind, which includes music, literature, artistic works, discoveries, inventions, even words and phrases, symbols, and designs are all considered intellectual property. And we are to have all of that as Muslims, addressing the Muslim first. And we should start learning how to read the Quran with comprehension that as we become conscious of what Allah is saying in the Quran, and as it forms our conscious mind, our conscious intellect, our music, our literature, our artistic works, discoveries, inventions, etc., will be reflected from that. And we'll stop copying this vulgar culture that we see that's amongst us right now. Imitating others. So, dear believers, let us go back to the call to be whole again, the call to be united and not fractioned within ourselves as individuals, as a community, thinking that we're not to have dunya. God is a good God. He does not like sin. He does not like cheating. He does not like corruption. God doesn't support the manipulating preachers in religion of the common man's spirituality that they lose interest in the material or intellectual world, so that these things will be left for those who plan to keep as many out of it as possible. I gave a khutbah at a masjid, and I was speaking about science, the advancement of science, how we're to advance in the sciences. And they became offended. They have been so conditioned by these crooked preachers who have manipulated them out of the intellectual worlds that they were offended. And they're sitting on their behinds waiting on Allah to give them something. Recipients of charity. And we're offended. African Americans being offended. And I was told that I should never come back there again and speak. That's called ignorance. You sitting in the grave, laying in the grave ignorant. With dhikr beads, prayer rugs, scarves on your head, looking like women, dressing like women, and just sitting and thinking somebody's going to come and just bring you something on a silver platter, and you don't work for it. No, we have to get out of this condition. The African American has to get out of this condition, and the African has to get out of this condition. That's why we address our people first here in America, and we're going to go and address our people in Africa. And I know it's not every individual African, it's not every individual African American, but it's too many as a people to speak of. The crooks have had too much of this world for too long. They are at the end of their world, and a new world order in religion, religious thought. A new world order of religious thought must be ushered in. We have to get rid of this when it comes to our relationship with the material world. We need to get rid of these preachers that preach against the material world, but yet they live off of your dollars. Who feeds them? Who's paying them? You're paying them. You show how stupid it is. Some things just get to be stupid. To show how stupid it is, they're preached to a congregation not to put so much attention on the dunya and then they want the congregation to pay them from their pockets and give them their money, their dunya. The little dunya that they do have, they are taking put in their pocket. So it doesn't take much. If everybody gives $1, if all my friends give me $1 on Facebook, well, I get $3,000 a week. If they gave me $1 a week, that'd be $3,000 a week. Now I can live a good life getting $3,000 a week from poor people. And never encourage them in getting $3,000 a week. It's always coming, you'll get yours in the next life. No, this Quran is not addressing the next life, it's addressing this life. So let us usher in a new world order in religious thinking. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank you for listening this morning to our presentation. We will be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.